Hey guys, welcome back to another episode at Build Own Moto. This week we're going to be doing bike maintenance. Nobody ever taught me what bike maintenance was when it came to riding. I had to learn it all on my own. So this is a tutorial video of how to take care of your bike. Basic maintenance, we're talking about filters, filter oil. I've got my filter here that's been cleaned. We're going to take care of that today. Oil for my bike and what to look for in oil. Chain lubrication, I like to use this chain wax. We'll look into that. And then some small things. Small things get broken in the woods all the time. So join us this week in this episode and we'll get into maintenance in this bike. All right, so the first thing that we're going to mess with today is my filter. It's one of the easier things to take care of. My bike in particular is right here. Do you see how dirty that bad boy is? It's time to clean that filter, isn't it? So I'm going to throw some gloves on here in a minute and we'll get started on tearing this filter out. Okay, so the first thing with my bike, and some bikes are different. Some have a screw right here where you unscrew it and pull it out. Some have snaps like this. I don't know if this is just a KTM thing or not, but mine you have to kind of push down, pop it out of the pin, comes out, and then pull the filter out. Now when you're pulling a filter out, you want to be attentive to how much dirt you allow to get in there. As you can see, I made sure it was nice and seated when it was in there last time and took care of it. Another thing I want to show you is how much I wipe out. Now, my bike has a block you can put in here for power washing this area out. I typically don't. I've never really dealt with that. I'm going to in the future. It's mostly because it's really hard to clean this area because filter oil gets really sticky. If you notice, even if I'm rubbing like this, it doesn't come off. So my main goal is I like to wipe this out. And at the end of the year, I do a big maintenance on my air cleaner or my air box to make sure it's all cleaned out. But let's go ahead and we'll start with swapping this filter out. The other thing that I do is this seal, I like to wipe it out. Make sure it's nice and clean all the way around my box. I don't like to have dirt in there because there's another chance of it exposing and getting into the bike. It's a tedious thing because if you get dirt in there, it's not going to be good for the motor. So I always check, and I can always look down into here to see if there is any dirt. I already did a check. Dirt did not pass this filter, which is huge, and that means that we can move on to the next part. So I'll show you guys what I do for putting my filter on, greasing it up, and oiling the filter. So we'll get to that right now. All right, so this filter in particular is held in by a couple pins here on the filter. Every one of the filters is a little different, depends on what you have, but there's always a cage inside of your filter. Older bikes don't really use pins as much. They kind of use a locator in the center, which this one has both. We're going to kind of work this off of here, pop it off, all three of them, break it loose here. There we go, third one's off, and out it comes. So this is my centerpiece of my filter. Now I like to wipe this down for a minute and make sure it's all cleaned up because, again, this is inside of the filter, so any kind of dirt and debris buildup on this is going to end up inside of your engine. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So we're going to wipe this thing down a little bit, make sure there's no dirt on it. Depending on the filters you're using, sometimes you'll see a little bit of buildup from the rag on it because of the oil. That's fine. It's not really going to hurt the bike any. We're just kind of making sure there's no sand or dirt building up on this. The next thing that I want to do is put this into the filter. So we'll grab the filter here. There's orientation that's important when it comes to where this filter goes. Each filter has a different corner. So as you can see, the top corner. That's what I like to do. Pop that center in and then work it all the way around it. I don't put them into the pins until I've got it all the way because I don't want to rip my filter. I like to reuse my filters as well, and I'll do a video on how I clean my filters at some point. But today, I already had this one clean. So now that it's all oriented how it's supposed to be, I like to pop these in. There we go. Next pin. Put that pin in here. They can be a little stubborn sometimes. He's got to work with them. There you go. Pop this one in there. Bam. Now I like to make sure it's seated properly. I kind of push out on it and rotate it out to where it belongs. Because if that's not seated, you have a bigger chance of things getting out of it. Now, we have our new filter on the cage. It's ready to go, but we have to put the oil on it next. There's different kinds of oils. What I'm using currently is a spray-on air filter oil. There is oils you can put in a box, and you can kind of put the filter in it, wring it out, let it get in there. The biggest thing that you want to pay attention to is make sure that you have oil all the way around it. I spray a little bit of oil on the inside, mostly because when you do drench these, the oil gets in there anyway, so it's not going to harm it, and the oil gets sticky as time goes on. I do recommend gloves anytime that you're working on your oil filter. Another thing is, and I'll show you this in a video in the future, if you do clean your oil filter, or if you clean your filter with a certain cleaner, some of the cleaners will eat your filter up. I did one the other weekend and it just ate the filter into pieces. So let's go ahead and we'll spray this up. Okay, one of the things I want to show you is I tend to be generous when it comes to the amount that I put on there because I don't want anything getting through this. It's very important that you take care of this. If you go on a dusty day and this is not properly oiled, you risk getting dirt into your motor, and that's not really a good thing. If you compare it to this one, dirt didn't really get through onto the inside of that. They're about the same color when that spray is done. It stays on the outside of the filter, which is a huge thing. So let's move on to putting this into the bike. Okay, generally what you'll also see is people like to put grease on this outside piece. I normally use our grease gun. It's empty right now. So what I'm going to do is just a dab of it, not much. Make sure your grease is clean. Just put it around this edge. This kind of helps an extra seal. It makes it a little harder to clean, yes, but it helps your engine. It helps your engine tremendously because it keeps the sand out of your engine. So just a little bit goes a long way. I don't go crazy on this. There are options out there that are usable for this kind of thing. They are literally grease that's designed for your filters that wash off. Because I typically buy 2 new filters in the beginning of each year, it's not a big deal because we're closing on the end of the year here of riding season. But that little bit of grease goes a long ways. Now it's time to put our filter in. This has a whole piece here that you can kind of line up against the back of the airbox. So this slides in this direction and then it kind of snaps in. And then I take my hand and I like to feel around to make sure that I've got it seated properly. So slide our filter in, get it down in there, set it where it belongs, press down on it. Now this piece comes down. Now mine's different, remember. Yours has probably got a screw in it if it's an older bike. Some of the newer bikes are like this. It depends on the make and model of your bike. So now that that's in there, I like to feel all the way around and make sure, see how it just shifted? Make sure that my filter is settled all the way around, and which it is. And there, we've taken care of the air filter. Let's move on to the next thing. Next thing I need to replace is my kickstand holder. Someone snapped it, I snapped it. I don't know what happened, but we're gonna go ahead and tear into that. I believe I've got to come through the top. So let's get the seat off this and we'll tear into it. So now we're going to work on this piece here, get it removed, which is right in here. So we'll zoom in there for you. Okay, so now that we've got it, here, we'll pull it through. Pull it completely out. Put that little knob piece here in. And pull it through. And bam, we've replaced that. Okay, so now let's talk about oils. What I've got here is an AMSOIL synthetic 10W50 is what this bike calls for. It also says confident clutch feel, protects gears, and resists heat. So this is what I run on my bike. This particular bike takes 750 milliliters of oil in this. So I typically have about 100 left when I'm done with it. And then another thing that I do, because I don't like to take my skid plate off, is I have a cheat code here. Every once in a while, we run out of paper towels around here. But you can cut a little piece here and it's like a little funnel to help you drain it and keep it off. Now, I still spill a little bit, but this is probably the easiest part for it. So we're going to go ahead and remove the oil and then put some oil in it, and we'll be back to check the chain. Okay, so this bolt right here on this particular KTM is the one that I'm going to be removing to change my oil. That's this bike. Other bikes have it underneath. That's why there's this hole in the stand in the center if you ever look at it. This particular bike's right here, so we're going to crack it, break it loose. Okay, it's loose. I'm going to take this here, slide it underneath, and then we use my fingers to get it the rest of the way. Okay, now that it's drained, we're going to spill a little bit. We're going to remove our funnel. Set it right here. Make sure you got your crush washer on there. I replaced mine, which is this little copper washer. This calls for about 15 foot-pounds. Now, this is where I'm going to be a little excessive, and by a little I mean a lot. I don't have a proper torque wrench for this size bolt, so we're using the big boy, which is set to that same 20 foot-pounds. Once it's there it is. Click, click. Always check 3 times. Good to go. Let's go ahead and put oil in this. Okay, now it's time to put oil into the engine. Make sure you wipe out your funnel every time you use it. It only takes a little bit of dirt to damage an engine, so we want to make sure we wipe this out. My particular engine, if you come in close here, my particular engine has the clutch right inside here. And if you pour too fast, it will fall out and it'll go all over the engine. So we want to kind of minimize the amount of oil that we miss. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour it in really slow with a small funnel and allow it to trickle in. All right, and I was wrong earlier. There's 950 milliliters in a jug, 946 technically, so you want around 2 left, which gives you your 750-ish. You can go a little over, I don't really want to go a little under or a little over, but you want to be as close to that as possible. Put this back on here, as soon as my hand works. And you've done an oil change on your 2-stroke engine. 2 strokes can go about 10 hours when it comes to oil, because their oil isn't going directly into the jug. That's why your crank and your piston are oiled by your 2-stroke gas mixture, and your transmission and your clutch are oiled by the oil we just changed. That's why it's also not black. It turns more gray because you can see all the wear and tear on the clutch and whatnot. And that's also why you don't have to change these as much if you're not racing them. Racing, I would change your oil almost every race. So next, we want to make sure that we lubricate our chain. I have an O-ring heavy-duty chain on my bike, and I like to use this chain wax and chain lube. This basically dries pretty quick and it stays on the bike for a longer period of time. What they say to do with this when it comes to the usage is you want to kind of spray it on the bottom part of it. So what we're going to do, walk over here. The bike is up in the air, you want to spray it right here. I spray both sides when it comes to it, but you want to just get a nice level on it. Someone once told me that my chain is my transmission, so it's important to take care of it. A few more things that you want to check on your bike when it comes to riding is the brakes and the wheel bearings. Now, I noticed the other day that my wheel bearing is starting to go bad. The way that you tell on these is when it's up in the air, you can kind of click it around. As I'm holding the bike, I can tell that my wheel bearing is moving. So as long as the swing arm is there, you can even do this on the ground. But if you move that and there's a nice clunk, your wheel bearing is probably going bad. The other things that could be going bad is your swing arm bearings. Mine I know are solid and tight still, and when I was on this bike earlier the other day, it was moving. The wheel bearings, we'll do another video on changing those later because I've got one more ride in the year and they'll make it through that. The other thing I want to show you is the brake system. If you come on in here, we'll check the front and back brakes. I noticed that my brakes were kind of getting a little low here. There's still some pad there, but that piston is pretty extended there. So a new thing in order that we'll be doing soon here is the brakes. You don't really want to overextend your caliper here because it's a single piston caliper, and there's something going on with mine where it's using just one, but my rear brake is a huge part of how I stop when it comes to this bike. The last thing that you want to check is your coolant level. Mine's located right here, right underneath of my bars. Most places they're here. Some don't have this cap anymore. The newer they get, you have to have a special tool. You push down open, as you can see, there is coolant in mine. Checking and making sure the levels are good. And we'll put that cap back on there and close it down all the way to where it belongs. So there you go. You've done some basic maintenance on your bike. Hopefully it helped you with this video. Stay tuned for some more things like taking off the forks, setting them properly, making sure that they're not out of whack, properly torquing them, even changing the oil in your forks. We're going to get into some of that. The other thing that I want to take care of this is the wheel bearings, like I had said. We'll check in on my swing arm bearings. We'll check in on my stem bearings up here. So if you like these videos and you want to watch them and they're helping you, like and subscribe because I'd love to bring you the things that I've learned that nobody taught me when I got into dirt biking. But until then, we'll see you next time.